Good morning. Welcome to the 16th day of December 2016. It's a rainy one. And off we go for the Good Life meditation. So yesterday's upload didn't have any text on it because I had a little trouble with the old computer getting it to work just right. So let's see if it works today. If not, then same problem. I made some changes to some of the ordering, and I found I got rid of something and I replaced it with something else. So the sub-principle of indifference, remember the lowercase I indifference, which lived with agency and indifference. So the uppercase I indifference was the great indifference, and then lowercase I was the indifference that we have towards the world around us, the things that we can't control. Not an indifference in terms of not caring, but an indifference in terms of recognizing the limits of our control and measuring our response accordingly, or measuring at least our visceral response, right? You can recognize something as being a problem without letting it get you too upset and yet take action on it. I know that sounds like it would disarm the capability, but it seems to work, at least as far as I've been able to ascertain to date. So what I've done is I've removed the lowercase indifference altogether. So now the great indifference is, now agency and indifference is just that. And I've added the same idea but with a new name right up there for temperance. So now temperance has three things. Temperance has the sub-principle of suffering, simplicity, and apathy. I really struggled to introduce that word apathy because it has absolutely no positive flavor in our current use. So if you say that someone is apathetic, that's nothing but bad. But in fact, apathy actually is, if you look at it in a more literal sense of its definition, it describes a sense of indifference towards things, and that indifference takes on its negative quality when we take away the power that it has to do anything. But indifference in terms of letting it indifferent to its impact on us is different from its an indifference towards action against it. Now let me illustrate that with an example. Yesterday, when I went out to get lunch, I usually I eat in, but I had to eat out yesterday. I walked down the street to a restaurant, and while I walked around a corner, one of those big monster truck things came around the corner at a high rate of speed. Well, it was going slow when it got around the corner, and then the guy in the truck hit it's one of those ones, all the windows are tinted, giant, jacked up truck with the tires, and he hit the accelerator, and it had the custom exhaust, just let out the most incredible noise. And literally smoke, or it was diesel or something, came spewing out of the back, squealing around the edge. Noise, it was just a mess. And immediately I felt this visceral, pissed off. What an ass, doing that at all, let alone doing that right around other people. But it was immediately caught. I immediately caught it, and I recognized that my feeling upset about that or angry about that is all within my control. It's not the truck or the driver or the action that was occurring there, or the noise or the smoke, that is the source of my upset. It's how I choose to respond to that. It's my impression of that within this domi container, and I have control over that. I can't control how that guy drives, at least not in any practical sense. I can't stop him from driving like that. Maybe I can, work towards enacting laws to get rid of vehicles that are modified in that way. But really, in all practical sense, there's nothing I could do. There's nothing I could have done to stop that in the moment. But I could control how I respond to it, how I let it impact the course of the day. And that had a big influence. I immediately arrested it. In terms of the emotion rising, I felt it rising. This is within my control. And then I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, that was a pretty inconsiderate thing to do. He must have some interesting motives to want to live and drive like that. And for the most part, I just let it go. In this case, the apathy, that was the apathy right there. The apathy was the indifference towards it. In this case, I decided, I'm not going to pursue that any further. If it had been something deeper, like some sort of social injustice, someone, yelling a slur at me, not like me, I'm just, just average white guy, not likely to happen here in Southern California. But I have had that. I have experienced racial discrimination in Japan, and I know it happens here in the United States to others, including to whites in some ways. But I could take action on that, but I could still run the same apathy, not let it hit too deep, while at the same time deciding, what, it's time for a letter to my representative, or it's time to take some action. Which political party is most active in this line? Things like that. So apathy in terms of controlling or taking control of how I respond to the world, and being apathetic towards the things of which I have no real control, like that truck. And things like that happen throughout the course of the day, and if we let them rule us, then they have a controlling factor over us, and bit by bit throughout the course of the day, they wear away, they erode away at our well-being and our sense of composure. So there you go. Apathy has joined the mix. Tricky one. I actually struggled for more than a week on that one. Let's get on with it now. The good life meditation. So there begins with the affirmation of human and civil rights. Humans have particular rights that are that protect us from the individuals, from the interests of the many. Likewise, the smaller groups in society. And as I develop these principles and pursue these objectives, I want to make sure that I respect those and do not trample upon the rights of the one or the few. Now, let's get into, and I am having another Starbucks today. This is actually my proper day off. So I'm actually working today. So I'm going to treat myself. What the heck? So the first is the principle of the principle of war. When I rise from the morning, stretch my arms, and I will begin the day at once at war with everything that I hold true. First and foremost, I want to destroy everything that I love in terms of philosophy. Nothing would make me happier than to clear the day, end the day bereft of principles, devoid of objectives, having shown them all to be false. And I believe that that's a worthy endeavor. For what greater virtue could there possibly be than to want to shine the pure light of reason upon us? That sounds so cloudy, so iffy up there. Pure light of reason, but sure, indeed it is. And shine the light of reason upon the dark, cobwebby infested recesses of my own philosophical constructs. God, that sounds so flowery, but it really does capture it. And likewise elsewhere, I'll go to war with anything that defies reason, rests its foundations in the uneven soil of credulity, falsity, faith, superstition, or dogma. 2, the principle of reason. If war is my object, reason is my weapon. And reason is nothing more than the ability to collect facts, develop arguments, and see how those arguments, the fruit that those arguments yield. And if it's true, then follow. Then you might be onto something. If not, then it's time to revise. This kind of harks back to war now. 3, the atomic principle. Everything in the universe is made of compounds, which are formed of molecules, which are formed of atoms, which are formed of subatomic particles, which pervade the universe and are really just a frozen form of energy, including you and I. And very, very soon, the light will go off here. This body will decompose. Well, hopefully, I'll die somewhere in the wilderness. And just have to be able to brace my family for that and never return, and then properly decompose through the biological processes and get back into the system. But probably I'll die, you know, amongst all of us. And I want to be cremated and then quickly put everything back, you know, scatter it all out. Really would love to have it done in such a way as to throw an exclamation point on the just the stuff that this is. You know, wouldn't it be great to have? This is going to not sit well with some people. Love to have the this corpse. Well, actually, if I die here, I want to have it devoted to medical science. Yeah, and then burn up what's left. But it would be great also to, if I wasn't qualified for that, just to throw me upon a rubbish heap and let it decompose with all the rest of the garbage. Because that's really I do look at the my own dead body as nothing more than refuse. Everything that's worthwhile is gone, except for the what's of value to the decomposers. Next, the principle of nature. Everything in the universe has some particular nature, and it's good to look at the qualities of those things. It's raining now. The quality of the nature of rain is to instantiate from water vapor in the air, to condense and to fall around an object like a dust mote, and to wind its way down, to strike something like this window, to congeal.
Thank you for choosing Starbucks. What can I get for you today?
Hi there. Good morning. Yeah, could I get an extra hot venti latte, please?
An extra hot chai tea latte?
No, venti latte.
Oh, venti latte. And it was extra hot, right?
Yes, please.
Anything else?
That'll do it.
All right, $4.75.
Thanks. And when the rain arrives, it will collect with other things and become flowing water, perhaps, pooling water. Rain has the characteristic of being wet, which is something interesting, which is, if you just take one molecule of H2O, I don't think it's wet. Somehow, between when molecules start to come together, their wetness comes about. I've got rain on my arm right now. Curious thing. Rain is part of the cycle of the hydrological cycle, the hydrology cycle, whatever it's called, of the Earth, and is may occur, certainly occurs elsewhere in the universe. Yeah, there you go. A little bit of that. Oh, it's essential. The essential nature, right down to the bit. The essential nature of water is that it's a rain is that it is composed of water, which is 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, which themselves are composed of protons, electrons, and neutrons, and subatomic particles. It kind of flows back to the atomic particles. I could do that. I just realized that. The principle of nature, whatever thing I find in the nature is always going to flow back to the atomic principle. Curious that. I like that. I didn't intentionally order them this way, but they're kind of flowing that way. Maybe I'm just finding it because they're cohabitating. Hummingbird floating around in the rain. Next, the principle of hold on. War, reason, atomic, nature, maturity. Yeah. The principle of, I forgot with nature. There's 2 sub-principles. The one is a paradigm, and the second is a firmware. Paradigm is a combination of something. Nature applies to anything, organic and inorganic, so living and non-living things. But a paradigm applies to living organisms that have their own particular nature. That is, that paradigm reflects something's an animal or plant's nature, as well as their motive and their will. I didn't say it quite like I wanted to, but you get it. It's the nature put into motion to enact something's will. That's its paradigm. And you and I have our own paradigm. I have the Kurt paradigm. You have the whoever you are paradigm. If anybody's actually watching this, and your paradigm differs from mine, from your difference of your perspective. Oh, there it is. Nature, perspective, and will. Nature, perspective, and will. Remember that, Kurt. your nature, perspective, and will differs from my nature, perspective, and will, although there are a lot of overlaps. And it's worthwhile to remember that for the most part, people are good. And you're enacting, even though I may not understand or agree with what you're doing, you're enacting a nature, perspective, and will that simply may be different from mine, but is towards what you perceive to be an end that is a good end. It's good to remember that, although not always a good end. Sociopaths may not have that, or maybe they just don't realize the consequence of that. Let me get my monies here. As my daughter likes to say, monies. So then firmware. Firmware speaks to instinct. So, there we go. Instinct is what we're born with, the hard wiring within our system. And we have our, we're born with that. That's part of our nature. So you can try to overcome it, but for the most part, nature, your instinct has a particular plan for you. If anything has a plan for you, it's your instincts, your nature, instinct part of your nature. And defy it at your peril, because it'll probably haunt you all your life. If you decide not to have kids, you'll find yourself longing for that, probably at a later line. Hi, good morning. Here you go. So I've done atomic and I've done nature. No, I didn't. Thank you. Great. Have a good day. Thanks. Here we go. Let's hit the freeway. Let's get the wipers running on high. It's going to be tricky when my daughter gets this car in a few weeks. And boy, then what'll happen? I guess these will be over then. And I'll be back on the bike riding to work in this rain. Listen to it come. So we did a war, reason, atomic, nature. What was the next one? I was just doing it. Oh, no. The next one is I just did all the sub-principle of nature. Maturity. Maturity is the, wow, it's really coming down. A lot for Southern California. Maturity is the quality of having experience and the ability to use and will to use that. So its experience part comes in the form of wisdom that we acquire through trial and error, and then and then also the ability to enable that, to put it in action, is fortitude. Fortitude also carries us through the times when we were not really quite sure what we should be doing, or when we made mistakes and it hurts. There we go. I think that's good enough for that. The next is the social principle, and the sub-principles of. Isn't there a sub-principle for social? Hold on, I've got to deal with the green light here. Get on the freeway. There you go. The social principle. Human beings are social animals. Our best end. Oh, justice and diplomacy. That's right. Social animals. Our best ends are social ends. The most refined form of virtue, of good, is social virtue. Is social virtue that we gain through our good social works. Good being defined as towards the end of virtue, not the end of virtue, but the end result of virtue. And then the sub-principle there of justice and diplomacy. Justice, of course, is seeking to pursue the application of what our society believes to be just ends, codified in our law. And let's turn the defroster on. And diplomacy is the mechanism by which we facilitate improved communication and also the ends of justice. There's that turn of speech again. So now coming on to after that is, oh, hold on, I got to do it again. War, reason, atomic, nature, maturity, social, temperance. And I get to add in apathy here. So temperance, and the three sub-principles of suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Temperance is our ability to control our consumption of anything: food, drink, services, activities, and emotions. So the exercise of restraint. And when we do that, almost by definition, I remember the order I want to do it. I think I want to do simplicity next. One way to instantiate, there's that word again, simplicity or temperance into our life is to live a simple life. You know, get in the habit of consuming less, living in a smaller house, working fewer hours, buying less, owning fewer things. But when then temperance becomes a way of life. Because when you when you're called to exercise temperance, almost by definition, you're going to suffer a little bit because you're denying yourself something that you want. Another way to prevent the suffering part is through the application of apathy, where you recognize that the want itself, like you see something that you really want to buy, know that the wanting of the purchase is not a part of that object or that thing or that person. It's within you, and you can distance yourself from that thing and thus tame the apathy in the process. Wow, it's really coming down hard. I think I covered that enough. Next is agency and indifference. It's just the one indifference. Agents are anything that's alive, plants or animals, and the things that they create are their objects. When you subtract out the agents and their objects, you're left with the great indifference, which is the bald, I almost want to call it the bald face of reality, but face anthropomorphizes it too much. It's the stark indifference, the starkness of raw nature, the surface of Pluto, the cold of interstellar space, and the vast waste of an empty desert. Hard to find the great indifference here, and surrounded with other people. It's hard to even find it in a forest, or even in all alone anywhere in wilderness, unless it's a real moonscape, like some of the desert places, like the Deepwater Wilderness, where I should be today, but I'm working today. Otherwise, I would have been out hiking today. Probably not raining out there, but it would have been a great day for it. What was that? Some little flasher thing came on, my warning thing came on. Okay, next, the best seat in the house. The best seat in the house is right here, right now. It's not wanting to have things other than they are. To not want to be anywhere else, or want to be doing anything else, or want to be anywhere else, but to be okay where I am en route to something better, while being satisfied where I am along the way. Such as right now on the rainy 91 freeway, the worst freeway in America. Dangerous, hazardous, congested, people everywhere, we can't see. Oh my gosh, but it's okay. Next is, so the best seat in the house. After that comes purpose, and it's a principle of virtue. Really, maybe this belongs near the end, after I dispense with the gods. If we have a universe that is devoid of gods, or at least there's no evidence of them, and demons or anything like that, then there is no objective purpose to life other than having kids. But now I can't see at all, because it's really coming up, all this stuff. Keep that safe distance. And if that's the case, then it's up to us to make some purpose other than that. And I choose the purpose of virtue, which is a very refined form of social good. And namely, I define virtue as the improvement of the well-being of as many as possible, the greatest number possible, reducing suffering. And you can do this in very objective ways. As I always like to say, I give the examples of education, health, improved communications. All these things are great ways to improve the well-being of as many as possible. Also taking care of the environment, right? Looking after our humane treatment of the animals in our care. Things like that. Next, is it the path of wildness next? Let me go over it real quick. War, reason, atomic, nature, maturity, social, temperance, agency and indifference, the best seat in the house, purpose, the path of wildness. Path of wildness is a trick that I use to get unstuck during in life when I not sure where to go, and oh, I'm all anxious, I don't know what I'm going to do. You can spend your whole life, like that, and the consequences are very real for doing that. You can't escape consequences. This speaks up forward to the well, actually, what's the next one, which is the sin of the risk of avoiding risk. But if you so a way to unstick yourself from that is to assemble the facts that you have, identify how much time you've got to consider those facts, and when that time is up, make a choice. And if you can't make a reasoned choice, make a gut choice. Make a reasoned choice informed of your gut, and move forward. You may be headed to disaster, but at least you're making a move, and you're doing the bold act of moving forward. Now that speaks to the next principle, which is the risk of avoiding risk, which is when you get in that point in life when you don't know where to go, you're stuck, and you say, well, it's safe, I'm just going to stay in this stuck position because at least I'm safe. You're opening yourself up to a much more insidious and deeper risk, which is the risk of not living according to your nature. And if you invest yourself too long and too deep along lines of a life that aren't in keeping with your nature, assuming your nature is a social and virtuous one, don't go pursuing natures that are not social or virtuous. Bottle that in and use your temperance to live with it. Okay, no rapists exercising their nature of being rapists or child molesters or thieves or anything like that. If you've got that's part of your nature, find help. If it's not, if your nature is a social and virtuous one, per my definitions, as I said, this is my philosophy, so I can make it per my own. Then go for it and enjoy the life that comes. It may not be a rich, wealthy, famous, glamorous, or even a very well respected life, but it will be your own. And I think I can tell you from experience that the fruits are very real and deep, and they are far more rewarding than the mere accolades of our fellows or the ephemeral fame of more pedestrian pursuits, or the comfort and security that comes of a fat bank book and a paid-off mortgage. I'm not saying that those aren't good, but if you pursue those as their own ends, you might find yourself in trouble. Wow, spin out on the highway, and I'm starting to hydroplane here. It's really bad, so I got to watch the speed and a wreck. Oh no! Another one here. This is bad. So next, okay, the sin of sin. Now it gets into the trifecta: the risk of avoiding risk, sin and damnation, and complete oblivion. Let's just put all three of those up on the screen. Bam! The risk of avoiding risk. Well, it was already up there. Sin and damnation and complete oblivion. Sin and damnation is if you don't live according to your nature, you will basically be sinning against your own nature, and that leads to damnation, which is living a pretty bad life in the here and now, even though you may be surrounded by comfort. And the very worst part of damnation is the potential of what I call becoming a monster, which really does happen to some people. They become vindictive, angry, hurt, slashing out at the world, living away in their little hidey hole. And I don't mean to say little. I don't mean to belittle them in any way. It's a terrible, truly a terrible and a tragic thing that can happen to people. The other types of sin that you can follow that really get you in trouble is the sin of falsity, believing false things, credulity, being overly eager and willing to believe things that that's good without good evidence. The sister sin of faith, which is just it is just another form of credulity, but it's worth pointing out on its own because it's such an insidious and rampant sin in modern society. Probably whoa, I am definitely hydroplaning here. It is I call these capital sins, actually. Really, I was hydroplaning there. That's amazing. I can't see. So the next is, and then also there's superstition and dogma, which are sins in their own right. I think those are self-evident. Finally, complete oblivion. When you, just a reminder that when you die, it's all over. There will be no final reunion, reconciliation, or final justice. If you want a reunion with those who are you're becoming alienated from in life, and do it now, before you and they are gone. Reconciliation, the same. And if you want justice now, seek it in this life. There is no appears to be no great arbiter in the sky that will punish the wicked and reward the good. People, the bad really can get away with their badness if we let them. Well, I'm almost done. The next few, the last few, are the arena. The arena is any place that I am throughout the course of the day is an arena for the. I'm going to stay in this lane. There's a hydroplane over there. Is an arena for the execution of the aforementioned principles. These a challenging meeting at work is a chance to exercise temperance and patience, social principle. The listening to or having that guy who drive his truck behind me in real quick is a chance to apply apathy to the things that are outside of my control and to keep in mind what is within my control. The remembering the great indifference helps me to keep in mind that the universe appears to be devoid of any overt oversight, that we are on our own, and if we want to find love and companionship, we need to do so with one another. On and on and on. Every circumstance, every setting in the course of the day is an arena for the exercise of principles and towards the aim of virtue, and that is the sub-principle of utility. The utility of every circumstance. Really, those are one and the same. Maybe I should merge them. Finally, the last principle is the season of philosophy. Unto every life, if you're lucky, I think it comes to everybody, comes the opportunity to live a considered life, and that is best enjoyed when your mind is at its best. You need to cultivate that from a young age, and even if you don't cultivate it from an older age, just cultivate it. And when the moment comes, when the muse is there, oh my goodness, I can't see. Not turn the windshield wipers off. There we go. Then live that life. And if you're into it, then record your thoughts. Maybe they'll be helpful to others. I hear a siren now. Oh no, it's my wipers. Okay, finally, let's wrap this up at 32 minutes. I've done something different. The next section is the willful time management. See, I moved willful time management out from being a principle of its own to being a new section, and within that is today's thought plan and today's action plan. So for today's thought plan, 4 things. It's always 4. Collect my thoughts before breakfast, compose them over lunch, record them before dinner, and then die before bedtime. Of course, dying isn't a thought, but it is the cessation of thought, so maybe that counts. And next, today's action plan. I plan to arrive at work safe and sound, to keep my principles foremost in mind. Oh, that road's even closed off completely. This is really getting nuts. Police are right here. And to, spin out, wreck. To maintain my composure, to speak less, to digest my thoughts before I say them out, to listen carefully to what others are saying, to not interrupt anybody, to keep my feet flat on the ground, my hands in my lap as much as possible, to not be overly expressive, to not tell stories about my own life to excess, to not indulge in my own interests, but to be cognizant of the interests of others, the issues that people are having, the concerns that they have, to remember that we're all struggling to find our way, and to remember that a lot of people are completely connected to the world around them, insofar as the upsets that occur around them directly translate into their own immediate reaction. They don't disconnect from it. They don't have they may not have the power of apathy to let them. Wow, that guy's on a bike is splitting lanes at 50 miles an hour. Interesting. to be sympathetic to that, yet at the same time keeping my distance from them, because it's almost like someone who's wolfing down a feast, a banquet of gosh, this sounds gross. A banquet of awful with an O. There, I toned it down a little bit. Yes, a banquet of awful. Ooh, man. I need to roll that right over into apathy. Here we go, big puddle. The banquet of awful. I think it's O-F-F-E-L, maybe, is that word? Banquet of awful. What a horrible image. Absolutely terrible. Yet it's what we do. It's what we do. And why would you want to be close to that? You would feel sympathetic to that. Keep your distance from the banqueters, from the feasters, those feasting on the awful of life. Wow, I gotta run with that one. I gotta stop though. I'm at 36 minutes, so that's it. I'm gonna wrap it up with the human hashtags. Hashtag indifferent, hashtag apathy, hashtag objective, hashtag honest, hashtag temperate, hashtag discreet, hashtag I think that's enough. Have a rotten day forecast. Just sit in a low bar. I'll probably get in an accident before I get to work. I'm gonna die. My wife and daughter are gonna die. Lose my bank, lose my money, lose my reputation, lose my job. Oh yeah. Now let's start the day. Have a great day and a really good life. Take care. Bye bye.